You can keep it right here. Is there someone there?
Is someone online?
No, yet. Okay.
You need a whole generator to run everything here.
More gadgets.
I know.
Less speaker, really.
ಆನ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಮುಗಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಈ ಬಟನ್ ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡಿ. Do a bhajan.
Please.
एकदं विनायकं एकदं विनायकं विघ्नकरं भज गजाननं विघ्नकरं भज गजाननं गणाधिपं उमासुतं गणाधिपं
उमासुतं
गौरीनन्दन गजाननं
गौरीनन्दन गजाननं
एकदन्तं विनायकं
एकदन्तं विनायकं
मूषिकवाहन गजानना
मूषिकवाहन गजानना
मोदकहस्त गजानना
मोदकहस्त गजानना
चामरकर्ण गजानना
चामरकर्ण गजानना
विलम्बितसूत्र गजानना
विलम्बितसूत्र गजानना
एकदन्तं विनायकं
एकदन्तं विनायकं
वामनरूपा गजानना
वामनरूपा गजानना
महेश्वरपुत्र गजानना
महेश्वरपुत्र गजानना
विघ्नविनायक गजानना
विघ्नविनायक गजानना
पादनमस्ते गजानना
पादनमस्ते गजानना
विघ्नविनायक गजानना
विघ्नविनायक गजानना
पादनमस्ते गजानना
पादनमस्ते गजानना
तव पादनमस्ते गजानना
तव पादनमस्ते गजानना
एकदन्तं विनायकं
एकदन्तं विनायकं
विघ्नकरं भज गजाननं
विघ्नकरं भज गजाननं
एकदन्तं विनायकं
एकदन्तं विनायकं
Neha will sing. Sing.
कृष्णं वन्दे नन्दकुमारं राधावल्लभनवनितचोरं कृष्णं
कृष्णं वन्दे नन्दकुमारं राधावल्लभनवनीतचोरम्
रामं वन्दे दशरथतनयं
रामं वन्दे दशरथतनयं
सीतावल्लभ रघुकुलतिलकम्
सीतावल्लभ रघुकुलतिलकम्
सीतावल्लभ रघुकुलतिलकम्
सीतावल्लभ रघुकुलतिलकम्
कृष्णं वन्दे नन्दकुमारं राधावल्लभनवनीतचोरम्
कृष्णं वन्दे नन्दकुमारं राधावल्लभनवनीतचोरम्
कृष्णं वन्दे नन्दकुमारं कृष्णं
वन्दे नन्दकुमारं
राधावल्लभनवनीतचोरम्
राधावल्लभनवनीतचोरम्
रामं वन्दे दशरथतनयं
रामं वन्दे दशरथतनयं
सीतावल्लभ रघुकुलतिलकम्
सीतावल्लभ रघुकुलतिलकम्
कृष्णं वन्दे नन्दकुमारं राधावल्लभनवनीतचोरम्
कृष्णं वन्दे नन्दकुमारं राधावल्लभनवनीतचोरम्
कृष्णं वन्दे नन्दकुमारं राधावल्लभनवनीतचोरम्
कृष्णं वन्दे नन्दकुमारं राधावल्लभनवनीतचोरम्
Wow! Very nicely rendered. And the speed, fast and slow, so nice. Wonderful. Wonderful.
I want to request you to turn off your cell phones, that way you can
That way need not be stressed.
stress. First step in freedom from stress.
There we go, yeah.
Let others who are trying to reach you get stressed.
What was that? Kersila.
Let others who are trying to reach you get stressed.
Ah. Oh, you have a nice sense of humor. Then what? More bhajans?
शङ्कर सदाशिव सभापते मनोहर
शङ्कर सदाशिव सभापते मनोहर
शङ्कर सदाशिव सभापते मनोहर
शङ्कर सदाशिव सभापते मनोहर
चन्द्रशेखर जडामकुडधर उमा महेश्वर चन्द्रशेखर जडामकुडधर उमा महेश्वर शङ्कर सदाशिव सभापते मनोहर
शङ्कर सदाशिव सभापते मनोहर
चन्द्रशेखर जडमकुट उमा महेश्वर चन्द्रशेखर जटाधर उमा महेश्वर चन्द्रशेखर जटाधर उमा महेश्वर चन्द्रशेखर जटाधर उमा महेश्वर शम्भो शङ्कर गौरीसा साम शङ्कर गौरीसा शम्भो शङ्कर गौरीसा साम शङ्कर गौरीसा शम्भो शङ्कर गौरीसा शम्भो शङ्कर गौरीसा साम शङ्कर गौरीसा साम शङ्कर गौरीसा शम्भो शङ्कर गौरीसा शम्भो शङ्कर गौरीसा
शाम्ब शङ्कर गौरीश
शङ्कर सदाशिव सभापते मनोहर
शङ्कर सदाशिव सभापते मनोहर
सभापते मनोहर
सभापते मनोहर
Very nice. When should I start? Start now?
Yeah.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Freedom from stress, right? We often think that the word stress is a product of the modern day, correct? It's a modern day ailment. That because of all these technological developments, we are spread too thin, too many things to do. All the time busy. No time to stand and stare. One poet wrote. Yeah. No time to see the cows. No time to do anything. All the time. Ask anybody, they'll say, I don't have time. And from this it is very easy to conclude that the stress is a contribution of the modern day. This is a modern day ailment. It's a condition which is contributed by, it's totally crafted by our lifestyles. And therefore, to ward off stress or to make it easier, what do people do? They try to go back in time. Retro, yeah. Retro theme will ward off the stress. And this going retro includes going to some remote place. I got an email from somebody recently. I was unreachable for 6 days. I was off the grid. No tablet. Tablet doesn't mean Tylenol, okay? Yeah. You know what I'm referring to. No tablet. No phone. No computer. No Wi-Fi. No SMS. Nothing. Off the grid. I went camping in some park. Somebody wrote. So that is the idea. That to and then the person also said this, I needed this to de-stress. So the idea is you mimic the ancestral lifestyle. First you get all the gadgetry, then you get stressed out, and then you de-stress by de-gadgeting. You go off the cyber grid, and then you come back to 108 emails at the very least. And then what? Get stressed out all over again, correct? So from these kinds of observations, it would be easy to conclude that stress is a product, an ailment that is specific to the modern day. But this is not so at all. In fact, the first recorded case of stress, the earliest recorded case of stress and panic attack happened 5,000 plus years ago. Oh, really? And that is recorded? Yes, it is recorded. Where? Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, because on the way here I was asked, are you going to talk about Bhagavad Gita? I hadn't decided. Then I said, why not? In the Bhagavad Gita, in the very opening chapter, Arjuna lists in great detail all the symptoms which are now known to us as stress. He says he's feeling sick. Suddenly, a fever has come up. He's shivering. Hands are sweating. How do we know? The Gandiva, the bow, is slipping from the hand. Slipping because of sweat. Again caused by panic and stress. And he describes this in great detail. Gandivam samsrate hastat tvakcha paridahyate. I can't focus. Na shaknomi avasthatum bhramati iva me manaha. My mind is going all over the place. And when the mind goes all over the place, you know what happens? The next step is hallucination. And he starts having some mild hallucinations. Not enough to be classified as a schizo, but mild hallucinations. And what are they? Some kind of foreboding. Nimittani cha pashyami. Nimitta means omens. He starts seeing omens. What kind of omen? Viparitani nimittani pashyami. Viparitani means not very auspicious omens. This is what starts to happen when one is stressed, correct? You may have seen the same black cat because it belongs to the neighbor. Every single day you are interacting with it, no problem. You get past the fear of animals to enough to pet it also every day, no problem. But this day happens to be the day you are going for a job interview, an important one. When you go out, the cat thinks you are its friend because every day you have been petting it. And it comes bounding and crosses also. Then you say, ayyo. And you have to go home, sit down for a minute and start again. And somebody in the house asks, where are you going? That's finished then. These are all called viparitani nimittani. And in the South Indian culture especially, somebody says, I'm leaving, nobody should ask where you are going. I don't know why that is. No. It's a practical question, especially in these days where you have to drive everywhere. You should know where you are going. Because, the people in the house can say, please pick up some this or that, and if you are going that way or this way. You shouldn't ask where you are going. So we played this nice dance, So, are you going by Walmart? The person says no, because the person is monosyllabic. So then you have to try another tack. Oh, so you're going by that grocery store? No. So you're going this side? No. You're going that side? No. How to ask? This is the part of the culture. You don't ask because it is seen as a nimitta. They're like an inauspicious thing. Why? One can extrapolate, interpret why. Because it is seen as an obstacle. There is the sankalpa. I want to go to grocery store, I want to go here, I want to go there. That sankalpa, there is a certain intentionality. And that intentionality is going in a certain way smoothly. And that intentionality is fructifying into action. It hasn't yet fructified into action. And more than anybody, the Hindus know there is many a slip between the cup and the lip, correct? Yeah. Hindus know this very well. So, before the intentionality fructifies into action, it has to be kept covered. Yeah. It's all covered. Like the seed sprouting, Nobody sees it. Only suddenly you see, you keep watering. Nobody sees the seed sprout and suddenly it has broken from the soil and you see it sprout. Before that it's kept hidden. So too with all the sprouting ideas and plans. Nobody should know. You may decide to go to India for a holiday or whatever. But people are told only after the tickets are purchased, normally. Right? That's how it is. So many things. With any kind of major undertaking, this is how it is. So if somebody says, where are you going? If that is what happens, then it is seen as an obstacle to the fructification. So you have to change course, drive around aimlessly before going to some place, come back, sit down, have a glass of water and then recommence on the plan. All these are called nimittas. And what happens? As in the case of Arjuna, when one is in the grip of panic, one starts seeing omens that are not there. Suddenly you look, it looks something inauspicious is staring at you. Black cat, ladders, this, that, all inauspicious things. Owls, so many things are there which we don't like to look at. All these things, suddenly Arjuna is encountering. But the fact that he is able to tabulate them is a good thing. That will come to later. He is able to relate what is happening. Blow by blow account he is giving. He is saying, this is what is happening. Vepatuscha sharire me, my body is shaking. I have kampanam. Suddenly he heard a knocking sound in the middle of the battlefield. They were his own knees. He was shaking. And then what? He was having horripilations. All his hairs were standing up. Roma harshascha jayate. Gandhi was slipping. Feverishness has come. And all these inauspicious omens have come. Mouth is dry. Mukham cha parishusyate. Dry mouth. All these are classic signs of stress, panic attack. In other words, he is having the world's earliest recorded meltdown, recorded by himself alone. He is himself talking in the first person. And then what is the result of this stress? That also we see. Tushnim babhuva. Tushnim means quiet. He became silent. And he was in the chariot and he became incapable of fighting. You are supposed to stand in the chariot. Even though a seat is given, you are not supposed to sit down. The valor of a soldier is to be standing in the back of the chariot. And here he just upavishat, he just sits down. In other words, gives up. So from this record, what do we see? That stress leads to apathy, inaction. Before that it leads to fear. And that fear has led to inaction totally. He is not available for transaction. Then after he sits down in the chariot, the next chapter begins. And in the next chapter, he starts to wail. First you have panic, stress, panic, inaction, apathy, and then depression. This is the whole kind of a thing. He starts to complain loudly. He starts to complain very loudly. And his thinking is affected. It's not just the depression and the panic and the inaction, but the thinking is totally affected. This was the same warrior who was chomping at the bit for the war. You know, when Westerners study the Bhagavad Gita, they often have the main question they have is, why did Krishna force Arjuna to fight? So they don't understand that it's not this Bhagavan Krishna who is some kind of a bloodthirsty person, egging on, come on, go kill. It's not some kind of a pugnacious behavior or aggressive behavior on part of Lord Krishna. No. We have to see the whole history of this war. Arjuna, for years and years, the whole time, 12 years of exile and one more year of incognito stay, he was chomping at the bit for this war. That's all he was doing. In between, he went on a trip also. Where did he go? He went to Lord Shiva's abode to get Pashupatastra, a special mantra-powered missile. These smart bombs they have now is nothing. Yeah, nothing. In those days, we could have an arrow with a person's name on it. And even if you were a bad shot, it would find the target. Very nice. But there was a condition. You had to do that mantra on that arrow for a long time. So that's what he was doing. All these years in the forest, he was keeping the powder dry by chanting all the mantras. That is what he was. He was taking care of his large arsenal of mantra-powered missiles. And even if he were to have some pacifist tendencies, because after all he was in a very calm area in the forest, and he was in touch with a lot of sadhus perhaps, because sadhus tend to hang out there, and perhaps he would have given up the tendency to fight. But Draupadi was right in front of him. So what if Draupadi was right in front of him? Because she had taken a vow to not comb her hair. She was in dreadlocks. Yeah, by that time, 12 years, if you don't comb your hair, what will happen? And why would she not comb her hair? What was the condition? She wanted a pint of blood of this fellow who had, Dushasana, who had dared to disrobe her, disrespect her modesty in public. She said, until you bring me that pint of blood, I am not going to do my hair. It was a protest. She was a strong lady. A big protest. And so Draupadi was the reminder. Every day he has to look at her, and every day he was reminded that this war needs to be fought. And he really did not have any tendencies, I'm going to do some bhajans, Shankara, Sadashiva. No, he's not doing all that. His only refrain is the war could not come quickly enough. So it's not that he did not want the war and Bhagavan Krishna was egging him to fight. That's not what it is. We should not look at the Bhagavad Gita in that way at all. Then you will conclude wrongly. No wonder the poor fellow was stressed. He didn't want to fight. Bhagavan is making him fight, and no wonder he was stressed. That is not how it was. He was stressed for other reasons which we are going to look into soon, very soon. But what happened is very interesting, because he had inaction. And the inaction led to a particular kind of depression, which made him want to run away from the battlefield. Nakankshe Vijayam Krishna. I don't want victory. And victory is not for the sake of victory, right? What is the victory for the sake of? No, victory, dharma, yes, but victory here is to enjoy the kingdom which has been usurped by these other fellows, the Kauravas. Nakankshe, look at the logic here in this beautiful thinking. Nakankshe vijayam, I do not want victory. Oh, but what about the kingdom? Na rajyam, I do not want the kingdom. What for should one have the kingdom? What do you get out of having a kingdom? Glory, happiness, na sukhani cha comforts. Kinno rajyena govinda. What is the purpose of having the kingdom? No, it is for bhoga. It is for the sake of enjoyment. Kim bhogaihi, why should I enjoy? No, it is power, Aishwarya, overlordship. Kim Aishwaryena va, what is the reason for all this? I don't need all this. Then what do you want? You are a warrior, you are a king, you are a prince, you come from a kingly family. This is your job. This is your job in life. You are a soldier. And if you don't want war, and if you don't want kingdom, and if you don't want the glory, Aishwarya, and if you don't want the happiness that the kingdom gives, then what is it that you want? Then he makes a shocking statement. Why? Because he is not thinking clearly. So I said it's not just the inaction, the depression, the stress which causes that, but the thinking is completely eroded to make bad decisions. So he concludes this segment by saying it is better to live a life of alms. Alms means bhiksha, bhaikshataryam. Charantah, bhikshacharyam charan jivami. I will lead a life of alms. There are only two categories of people that can live a life of alms. One is a student. Student means what? Student of Veda. Yeah, brahmachari. Student of Veda. Usually delineated by that tuft of hair, simple white clothes, etc. That is brahmachari, student of the Veda. Why? How come the student can live on free food? How come? Because in those days they didn't have paper route. Yeah, here when they are 12 or 13, people take up the paper route. Work study. We don't have work study. The one whose work itself is to study, that is the work. There is no work study program. We don't have that in the Hindu tradition. The student is completely supported. As long as you are studying, you are supported. So that is one category of people who can ask for alms. And we hear stories from ancient India, very beautiful. We hear very nice stories of how these small children used to know. In fact, even the girls who were in the olden days, they were given the sacred thread. They were also asked to go for alms. The only difference, Manu writes, one of the sages, is that the girls were asked to go only within the compound of the friends and the relatives of the family for safety. Whereas the boys could go outside as well. They could stray to the other streets. Girls were told to just be on that same street of friends, relatives, known people. So that for the sake of safety. And these children were also very clever. They would know which auntie is the best cook. They would show up there and they would know which auntie is cooks very well, but if you don't go on time, everything will be, finished. Because she cooks very little. They would know that also. And they would know that if I have to go to that house, you have to go early. And like this, sometimes it was the families would sign up for weekly alms. So every week they would have a few of these fellows come and eat. It was easier to feed 4 or 5 of them, 10, 11 of them, at the same time. This is how it was. So that's one category of people who can receive alms. What's the other category of people? Renunciants, sannyasis. Sannyasis live on alms. Now, which category does Arjuna belong to? Huh? Too old to be a student and not yet ready for sannyasa, correct? Huh? Not ready for sannyasa. Sannyasa is not something, you just do because you don't have anything else to do. That's not what this is about. You have to be ready for it. You have to be ready in the sense of ready to live a life without props. That is sannyasa. And then they can live on alms. It's called bhiksha. Just a fancy word for lunch and dinner. You have lunch, I have bhiksha. It's the same thing, really. It's not a big deal. It's just called alms. So then here, Arjuna, who falls into neither category, is suddenly saying, I want to live on alms. This is what I mean by the product of this stress has caused him to think really wrongly. He perhaps calculated in his mind. Where was he? Where was this battle taking place? Kurukshetra, on the outskirts of what is now New Delhi. And from there he thought Haridwar, by foot, is probably a few days away. You could just walk there. Rishikesh little further. So that's why I stopped at Haridwar. There is a method to the madness. So he goes to Haridwar. He thought, he's mentally already taken himself to Haridwar. This is that, what is that? That desire to go off the grid. He decided to go off the grid. What kind of a grid? Mantra powered missile grid. The kettle drums, Dundubhis, shouting, the war cry has already been called. His timing is off because he's not thinking properly. He has made an agreement to fight. When he himself blew his conch, Lord Krishna blew his conch. And in those days, conches also had names, like pets. So they all blew their conches with fancy names. Panchajanya, Devadatta, etc. They all blew the conch. The conch blowing is not just for, showing off lung power. That's not what it is. It's a cry for battle. And any auspicious occasion, any kind of a beginning is made with a conch cry. And then there were kettle drums, these big, huge drums. There were people drumming. And some people just for fun would sit and make terrible noises so that the other people would be scared. This was also kind of a battle cry, war cry. And people have to engage in this. The men have to engage in this to feel. Because it's not easy to go and fight. It's not fun. So they have to make it look like fun. They have to beat the chest and, howl and scream and, kind of like watching Super Bowl. And, it's like same kind of a thing. You have to get into the spirit of it. And so everybody is getting into the spirit of it. And he's already mentally gone to Haridwar. He wants to go off the grid. He wants to go off the battle. And he wants to sit and lead a wonderful life, sitting under a tree. happily ever after. This is what is called spiritual romanticism. Correct? When the going gets tough, the tough want to get going. This is a classic case of flight. And so this panic has led to this desire for flight. And he is envisaging a lovely retirement, premature no doubt, and a dishonorable discharge, because if you flee from battle, you don't get an honorable discharge. A dishonorable military discharge, is that what he is faced with? And then he wants to go and sit in some corner. This is the wrong decision he has made as a result of this calamitous decision has been made as a result of this whole panic. So from this 5,000 plus year account, you can see the effects of stress, not just on the body and on the mind, but also on the decisions that you are going to be making. And lots of good luck if the person making the decisions happens to be in a place of leadership. Then the decisions don't just affect, it's not like I'm going to fall off a cliff. The whole army is in jeopardy. He, as one of the great warriors, the commander-in-chief, is deserting the battle. He's not understanding the implications of this. Because he's panicked, he's deserting the battlefield. He's not understanding that. And neither is he able to follow the fact that he is setting a very wrong example for future generations to come. Nor is he cognizant of the fact that his wrong decision is going to cost the praja, the subjects, because the subjects who are already subject to a reign of terror unleashed by Duryodhana et al. Are going to be, they are not going to be rescued from that. They have been praying for rescue. And he is not allowing this rescue to happen. So all these three things he has conveniently forgotten because he has become extremely self-centered. It's not even, we can't even call it self-centered. Deluded is a better term. Deluded. So we see here the effects of the stress very clearly. And we see that even though life is complicated in the contemporary day, this stress is from a long time ago, correct? It seems to be part of the human condition. The question is, when? When is it part of the human condition? We have to see that. And if we again take Arjuna's example, a lot of light is shed on why did Arjuna get into this meltdown state? Why did he need a paper bag? Why paper bag? When there is panic attack, you are advised to breathe into the paper bag. Why? Because there is some carbon dioxide when you get, apparently it can come out from the meltdown state. Not too much, little bit. So, what happens here? We have to see what exactly happened. So the battle cry was already there. And in the beginning he wasn't stressed at all. In fact, he forgot who is driving the chariot. This is Bhagavan Krishna. He himself had begged him to join his side. He himself had gone. Along with Duryodhana, not along with, but both happened to come at the same time. He himself had said, please be with me. I don't want the army. I don't want any divine dispensations. I just want you. He had chosen the Lord to be the driver of his effort, to be the charioteer, to be the one who is in front, facing all the arrows. This fellow is sitting in the back, protected nicely. Every arrow has to go through Lord Krishna first, He forgot that it's Bhagavan. He started to talk to him on first name basis. And in the vocative case, hey Achyuta, hey you, James. Why James? Chauffeur. Yeah, generic chauffeur name. Hey James. Sanskrit James here. Achyuta. Hey Achyuta. And in the beginning, he is full of aplomb. He is full of ego. Etan niriksheham yavat yodhukaman avasthitam kaihi maya saha yodhavyam asmin ranasamudyame. I want to see these people. Who are these idiots who dare to fight with me? Don't they know who I am? I'm the greatest warrior, I'm the greatest soldier. 1 minute greatest soldier, another minute want to go to Haridwar. No, no connection. This is what panic does. I'm the greatest soldier. And let me see who are these misguided idiots. Because Duryodhana's army was just picked off the street. They didn't even know how to wear a uniform. They didn't even know which hand to hold the bayonet and which hand to hold the shield. They didn't know. They were just, riffraff from the street gathered at the last minute. He said, these people are going to fight with me? These are babes? What do they know? And then he says, Hey Achyuta, Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Ratham Sthapaya, Me Ratham, my Ratha, my chariot. See, wherever this me and my comes, there is we get very clever. You know where this talk is heading. Wherever me and my comes, this is the, baby stress starts to happen. Yeah, more about that soon. Me Ratham Sthapaya, my Ratha, put it, Senayoho Ubhayoho Madhye. Where? In between the two armies, so I can have a vantage view of all the people. I can have a vantage view to see who are these misguided fellows that dare to fight with one like myself. Bhagavan Krishna could have got upset and said, I'm going to put a curse on you right now that you're going to regret. I'm very angry. He doesn't say that. Because this is Bhagavan Krishna. Nothing Bhagavan Krishna does is straightforward. Even how he stands is Tribhangi, 3 bends. Yeah. Because as an avatara, Bhagavan Krishna represents Ananda. That is what we have seen in the retreat before, shortly before this talk. Ananda it never comes in a straight line, correct? It's always a wave. It's a wavy thing. It cannot be categorized. And Lord Krishna has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. So he stands also like this. Any dancer depicting, anybody dancing, taking dancing lessons? Bharatnatyam? Yeah. How do you depict Krishna? Come here, stand. Come. Yeah. Show Krishna. Face there. Yeah. Face there and show Krishna. How does Krishna stand? Flute. See, 3 bends, Tribhangi. Now show Rama. How does Rama stand? Huh? Like that. Straight. Show there. Very nice. Beautiful. Give her a big hand. Very nice. You can sit down. Rama is the avatar of Dharma. Poor fellow has to stand straight, No option to relax. Whereas Krishna, Lord, wavy, So Bhagavan Krishna here doesn't get offended, not in the least bit. He says, "Theek hai, aye, sir. I'm just playing the role of James. No problem. I will put your Ratha where you want me to." And very quietly, he takes the chariot and puts it to where the elders, the teachers, and everybody that Arjuna respects and loves are standing. Oh no! All the dridata means the resolve, all this aplomb, all this chest beating, war cry, conch blowing, aplomb is gone. Like a deflated balloon, Arjuna is looking and the reality hits. What is the reality? That he has to fight not people who he doesn't know. That's easy. I don't know him. I don't know that person. I have no emotional connection, no physical connection, no familial or lineage based connection, no kinship network. This is somebody somewhere. Maro, kill them, no problem. Maro dalo, finished. It's just a job I am doing. But here, who are these people? There were only two categories of people wherever he saw. One category of people were the people in whose lap he had played, who had comforted him each time he had scraped his knee, each time he had doubted himself. They were the ones who had pepped him to go on. They were his grandfathers, uncles, teacher of warfare. Who was that? Drona. So that was the first category of people in whose lap he had played. And then there were all these nephews, sons of cousins and sons of all the extended, second generation of people, looking innocent, people who were unmarried, people who had just started a family, young youths who had played in his lap. Those were the only two categories of people he saw. Ashru Purna Kulekshanam, his eyes filled up with tears, unshed tears. Why not shed tears? Because he's man and it's difficult for men to cry. Eyes are filled with unshed tears. He's plunged deeply into doubt. And that is what it is. And then immediately he sees. First he said, Me ratham sthapaya, correct? My ratha, please put. Then he sees that these are my people. Another use of the word my, which has led to stress, severe stress. These are my people. How can I fight my people? How can I fight the people I respect? How can I fight against the people I love? How can I fight against the people that belong to me? This is what happened. And so you see the cause here. You get an indication of the cause. That a misguided sense of possession causes stress. As soon as you feel something belongs to you, this is one cause of stress that we can easily delineate from this story. As soon as you feel something belongs to you, then you enjoy it for less than 30 seconds. After that, what happens? You start to feel responsible for it. Somebody called me and said, I got your number from such and such a person. I said, okay. I said, do I know you? No, you don't know me. I just called. Do you take non-spiritual questions? I said, sure, because everything is spiritual from where I am, from where I sit. What is your question? I'm really stressed. I said, why? Because, for the first time in life, I bought a plant for myself and I'm watering it every day and it's looking dry and it's going to die. What should I do? I said, I'm going to answer it non-spiritually. I said, I think you should stop watering it. Because you're overwatered, The poor plant has no place to breathe. It is, it's waterlogged. I said, look at the pot. Lift the pot and see underneath. Is there a hole? She said, no hole. I said, okay. Stop watering. So like this. So even a plant, when you say, okay, I'm getting this. I'm going to look after it. In the beginning there is so much joy. Oh, it's got leaves. Oh, is that a bud? Oh, is it about to flower? Even a cactus, Cactus is the most low maintenance thing, correct? Yeah. You just have to look at it, it's watered enough. Even then there is stress. Why? Because that sense of responsibility comes. Over-responsibility. And that over-responsibility, here in Sanskrit has a name for it. It is called kartrutvam. A sense of misplaced doership, which I am calling over-responsibility. So then you go in the overkill mode, literally in this case. You kill it with love, you kill it with kindness, you kill it with water, you kill it, Why? Because the brain is deluded. When that over-responsibility comes, the feeling is, I cannot handle it. Over-responsibility is right next to overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, I cannot handle it. The only way is to quickly find out whose birthday it is and palm off the plant to that person. Then only I can breathe nicely. Yes, if it's a plant, you can do that. What are you going to do if it's your child, You cannot give it away. Even though you may want to some days. Certain things you cannot give away. You cannot give away the spouse. You cannot give away the child. You cannot give away the in-laws and the outlaws. Certain things are here to stay. And even if you give them away, the second thing that comes into your life will be just like that thing. Yeah. Why? Because it has connected with karma. That's what it is. It's all karma. Another story I know. This lady purchased a car. 10 years she kept it. Where? In the garage. Only one day she drove in 10 years. Very strange karma, right? Yeah. Very strange. Only once she drove. Why? Because she said, oh, it will depreciate. Even sitting when I am about to sell it, it should have good mileage, it should not depreciate. Even sitting in the car, the moment you go off that lot, it starts to depreciate. That is the beauty of this corporate culture. It has already lost value. Even if you go out of the lot after signing the paper and you come back and you say, I changed my mind, they will say sorry. Yes, we'll buy it back, but for half the price. They will say that. They will dare to tell you that. So it's not that you have to make an effort to, keep it the value. So she kept it spick and span and drove it only once in 10 years. And then she sold it when she got very sick. Because in any case she knew she was not going to be able to drive it. This is what stress makes one do. And what is that which goes from this aplomb, this courage, so-called phase of courage, to complete dejection? Many things. One is what we get from the story, just to reiterate, is a sense of meanness and minus, a misplaced sense of minus and meanness. You have to take ownership. Obviously you cannot, say I'm going to somebody else's job, because why are you doing somebody else's job? No, it's my job only. But the teacher said don't say my and me. So I have to change the language. And sometimes people even do this, they don't say this is my body. And they want to not identify with the body. There are some sadhus who talk like that. When did you come? This came yesterday. Are you hungry? No, this has already eaten. When are you leaving? This is leaving day after tomorrow. We don't have to go to that extent and be in a state of denial. But cognitively, there has to be an inner space between the I and all the things that one has to address in life, between the things that one has to do. That inner space is important, otherwise there is a sense of misidentification. And that inner space, more about that very soon, that inner space is something that is cultivated. It doesn't come automatically. I have to know who I am. Otherwise I get lost in the plant, lost in the car, lost in the karma, lost in the spouse, lost in the child, overwhelmed by every single passing slings and arrows of fortune, outrageous or otherwise, completely overwhelmed, unable to act, coming under the spell of all kinds of things. This becomes my lot. So if one is to be objective, this is what one needs to be. One has to be objective, one needs a wake-up call, and Bhagavan Krishna gets a rude awakening in the second chapter. His plan to go to Haridwar is crushed, foiled completely, immediately. Bhagavan Krishna, Arjuna gets a very rude awakening because Bhagavan Krishna points out that you think you can go and sit in Haridwar and then nobody will recognize you because you'll grow one dadi, because you're going to be a sadhu. You're going to be one dadiwala and you're going to sit there. You're going to grow a beard. And your face will be covered. Don't think it's so easy. Every pilgrim will know which tree you're sitting under. And whoever goes there, they will say, oh, between the beard, you look, are you Arjuna? And they're going to spit at you. Avachya vadam bahun vadishyanti tava ahitaha. All your adversaries are going to say things which I as Bhagavan cannot even repeat. He says that. Avachya means things which I cannot even say, they are going to say to you. Nindantaha tava samarthyam. Samarthyam means your valor. They are going to criticize the lack of your valor. And there is nothing more uncomfortable, nothing more demeaning, nothing more disrespectful than this, Arjuna. So give up this spiritual fantasy of being able to run away from your responsibilities. You can't just hand over the war to someone, like handing over the waterlogged plant. You cannot do this. It's not as simple. You have to stand there and you have to face this. You have to face this situation because this is not something that could be avoided. Krishna himself went as the mediator. He could not mediate. He came back. And again we ask the question, if Krishna could not mediate, what does that mean? It simply means that this was within the law of Bhagavan. It had to happen in a particular way. The war could not be avoided. The karmas of the armies, the karmas of the people, and the wrong, the wrong actions of the Kauravas needed this war to happen. This was the only way to resurrect the people from this difficult situation. This was the only way. And so to do that, this is what the war had to take place. Even Bhagavan's intervention could not stop it. Why? Because the people have free will. That free will is there, which abuse even the laws of Bhagavan all the time. And so when something cannot be avoided, naturally there is stress. When something you don't want cannot be kept at bay. This is called, things you don't want. Things you don't like cannot be kept at bay. You cannot have some kind of a nivritti. You cannot run away from them. You cannot always do as you like. So therefore, there has to be an inner space between the actor, I, and between what I have to do. And for that inner space, I have to deliberately put a proxy actor, because it's too scary to act. Most of the time I don't know if I'm winging it, like parenting. It doesn't come with a manual, If your child does this, do this. There's no book of instructions. You just learn from other people, but even that's not enough. Because as karma will have the last laugh, so too your child only will be very different from other children. So none of the advice given by neighbors and friends will apply to your child. It is unique. Each child is unique. So none of the book of instructions and experiences may help a little bit, but it's not going to. You cannot raise the child using Dr. Spock. Who is Dr. Spock? Huh? I forget. Did he say don't beat the child? I think that's what he said. He said discipline the child, but you cannot have physical punishment. There are new theories. If you leave it to the scientists to raise your children, these psychiatrists and all these people, every 5 years they'll come up with a new theory. Same thing happens with a diet. They say, oh, eat only proteins. Then no, you should have good carbohydrates. No, that was wrong. Now we have to do this. Vitamin E. They kept on saying eat vitamin E. Now they say no, vitamin E. Because in this country, this is the country of excessiveness. Vitamin E means once in a while they are not happy eating it. Every day 10,000 units. And then the heart is all, unhappy. And they say, oh, too much vitamin E, it gives you a heart attack. This is what they'll say. So same thing with child rearing things. There's all these different generations and different things. This is how to parent, this is not how to parent. Nothing works. And it is stressful because one doesn't know what to do. One is just imagining it as one is going along. And that's why this inner space is needed. And the inner space cannot be gained except by having a proxy, by appointing a proxy actor. You don't act. You make someone else act. Like these Dandi sannyasis. These Dandi sannyasis like Shankaracharyas and all. What do? They carry one stick with a little orange flag at the top of it. Wherever they go, the stick goes. Yeah. The stick becomes the proxy actor. The stick is the ego, the ahankara. So when they do puja, they are not doing the puja. They give the authority to they transfer the authority to the stick. And they do puja on behalf of the stick. So this is the way to not get embroiled in sticky situations. So we learn from our gurus, from our renunciates. So don't rush to the garden and pick up one stick, okay? Yeah. This is just a metaphor I'm giving. So what can we do? They are called Hamsa Sannyasis. These are the ones that carry a stick. Those of us who don't carry sticks are called Paramahamsas. We don't carry stick. Yeah, this is just a small aside, just for fun. Sannyasipedia. Yeah. So, this is, so that stick represents the ahankara. Because the ahankara is very difficult to give up. And you need not give it up. It has to be lightened, that's all. If not enlightened, it has to be lightened. It's difficult to give up. So therefore it is transferred to the stick and the stick is doing, the stick remains out of the picture and then, one does things without the ahankara in the way. That is the idea. And so here, what is equivalent to the stick? You don't look for an equivalent to stick. You just bring, this is the beauty of our tradition. You drag Bhagavan into every situation. Yes. You just say, what are you sitting there at the altar? Come here. Yeah. I am not doing this. You are doing this. And Bhagavan is kind enough to nod his head and say, "Theek hai, okay. As you desired. You are doing this, I am not doing this." And in fact, this is the advice to get out of the stressful situation that Arjuna is given in the 11th chapter. The 11th chapter also he is under stress. for a different reason. We'll talk about that if we have time. And Bhagavan Krishna says, Nimitta matram bhava. Hey Savyasachin, Nimitta matram bhava. Savyasachin means you who think you are ambidextrous, you can shoot off the arrows with the right hand and the left hand and not miss any target, Arjuna. You who think you are the actor par excellence, don't be an actor. Let me be the actor. Me doesn't mean here Mr. Krishna, because that would be some kind of a denial, It would be like some person, there is that story that there's in front of the pearly gates of heaven. There were people standing. And then, who is the one who lets them into heaven? What is that saint's name? Peter or Paul? Peter. Peter said, I don't want all these group flock mentality, sheep flock mentality people. I just want someone with a lot of courage and initiative and ability to act. So, just look at all those people and give them some test. And then bring the courageous person welcome them with red carpet into the pearly gates of heaven. So the assistant of Duta, the messenger of Saint Peter, went out and said, those who have creativity, ambition, enthusiasm, all these qualities, goal-orientedness, focus and drive, stand on one side, the rest of you stand on the other side. And everybody looked at each other and said, I don't think that's me. No, I don't think that's me. So they all huddled on one side. And one puny fellow went and stood on the other side. And this Peter Duta was very happy. Oh, so you have creativity, you are empowered, you have self-confidence, you have ambition. He said, I didn't hear what all you said, but my wife told me to avoid crowds. That's what So putting Bhagavan as the actor doesn't mean that you're afraid to make your decisions. It's to gain courage to make those very decisions. So it's not some kind of hiding behind the spouse like some proxy, you go in front, I'll stay in the back. You allow Bhagavan to predominate. And you say you are the actor. Even though secretly you might be feeling happy, oh, I did a very good job. At least, that's what happens. In India, you go to somebody's house, you eat the food and you say, this is fantastic. And what will they say? It's Bhagavan's grace. Bhagavan made it. Guru's grace, Bhagavan's grace. That awareness is there. Even though they may be secretly feeling happy, oh, I'm a very good cook, this is great. But they will say that this is the culture. And this is the only way to get that inner space between yourself and your actions. And it is also a fact. It's not really that you are acting anyway. Because the ability to act is given. The hands and legs, the karmendriyas are given. The ability to make decisions, the jnanendriyas are given. The ability to deduce is given. The ability to do anything is given. And here we are acknowledging what is given. And when you are acknowledging what is given, you are objective. When you are objective, there is inner space between you and your action. And that inner space becomes a huge cushion to take the consequences of the action. Because if Bhagavan is the actor, who is the result of action? Bhagavan only is giving the results of action. So there is a little cushion between you and the hurt, guilt and overwhelm that you might otherwise feel if this inner space was not there. So this inner space has to be cultivated. This is what he is told in the 11th chapter. When Arjuna is quaking under a fear, a primal fear of Bhagavan. Why does he have fear of Bhagavan? Because he has separated himself from Bhagavan. He wants to sit on the sides and look at what Bhagavan is and what Bhagavan does. But the truth is that there is no Bhagavan outside of you. Bhagavan means limitless, all knowledge, all power, limitless. It has to include you. Remember this always. That's why we don't look up when we say Bhagavan. Wherever you look, there is Bhagavan. Looker is Bhagavan. Object is Bhagavan. Subject is Bhagavan. Everywhere is Bhagavan. Everything is non-separate from Bhagavan. The effect, this Jagat, is non-separate from Ishvara, the cause. This is our tradition. And so if this is our tradition, if everything is Bhagavan alone, then the results of action also come from where? Bhagavan. All that is here is Bhagavan. And what did Arjuna do? He didn't understand this. Even 10 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, had not been able to communicate this vision. And still he was having this penchant, this desire for darshan. Please show me your cosmic form. And I'm going to sit and enjoy your cosmic form. What happened? The cosmic form includes vacuuming people from this earth that do not belong here. And he saw Bhagavan siphoning off all the Kauravas. Some of them were hanging between the teeth of Bhagavan. And all these horrible things he saw. And like Patangaha means these little moths that are attracted to the flame. All these miscreants were being attracted to this mouth of this cosmic Bhagavan. And so that gives us the second reason for the stress. And how to resolve that? This is the reason. Separation. Alienation. The alienation alone causes anxiety. The alienation causes bhaya. And therefore I have to make that surrender, make that relationship with Bhagavan part of my daily regimen to overcome this alienation, to overcome this separation, to overcome this anxiety, because the separation is what, a sense of separation is causing this stress. I have to let go of that, so I have to have I have to enact the daily relationship. I have to cultivate a relationship to overcome this alienation. This is the second lesson we get from the Bhagavad Gita about stress. That this alienation and this anxiety has to be overcome. First thing is make Bhagavan the actor. Make Bhagavan the giver of the results of action. And if Bhagavan is the actor, then it's very easy. It becomes easy. Easier at least. Because there is the inner space between the observer and the actor. And I identify with the devotee, the observer, and Bhagavan is the actor. That also keeps me, honest, keeps me humble, keeps me within the rubric of the whole. And the second thing is I eliminate the separation, because wherever there is alienation, there is bhaya, anxiety. So the alienation is overcome by cultivating a relationship. And thirdly, the stress also, this is more on a practical level. The stress also comes from whenever there is too much to do, correct? When is there too much to do? When you haven't done what should be done before, right? When everything that you own is in the laundry basket. Because 5 weeks you haven't done laundry. And the only thing that is washed is a handkerchief, And tomorrow you have meetings, you have work. So whole night you have to stay up and do laundry. And naturally that causes stress. Naturally, you want to get it done quickly, and the more you want to get it done quickly, the more you clog the machine, and then the poor thing goes on strike and stops functioning. And then you have to wash whatever is in the machine by hand because it has stopped functioning. Naturally, there is stress. So therefore, the way to keep stress at bay, the third way, is to stop procrastination. This is what it is. Stop procrastination. Whatever you have to do, do it. Even Saint Kabir said that. What you have to do tomorrow, do today. What you have to do today, do right now. Right now, don't waste the time. Because when you do something right now, it's done. Oh, but it is unpleasant. This is what you tell your children, right? Whatever you don't like, you eat first from the plate. And then you can enjoy what you like. Why don't you take a piece of the advice that you give them? Whatever you don't like to do it first. Do the unpleasant first, the boring things next, and then leave for the last the pleasant things. And then there really will be no stress. You can try this out and let me know when you meet me next. This is what it is. The tendency to procrastinate comes from some misguided, I don't know what. This also, Bhagavad Gita has a name for it. Dirgha Sutri. The procrastinator is called Dirgha Sutri. Naturally one gets anxious because the deadlines are coming up. I have put it off, and then my mood is off. Things don't get done, and the more things don't get done, the more they pile up, starting with homework, right? Yeah. 3 days you don't do homework, what will happen? And you get stressed, right? When 5-year-old came and talked to me once and said, I'm feeling really cranky today. I said, how do you even know the meaning of the word cranky? Aren't you too young for that? No, the child said. I really feel cranky. I said, don't say cranky, say I'm happy. No, I'm cranky. This is what it is. And this crankiness is what? It's just a sense of just too much to do. Actually, usually the problem is not that there is too much to do. And if you really look at our lives, and if you feel you are doing too much, the answer is simple. Drop a few things. No, I cannot drop. Okay, don't drop, do them. No, I cannot do them either. Either drop them or do them. No, it's difficult. What do you want to do then? You can't drop them, you can't do them, what do you want to do? Can I complain a little longer? That's what I want to do. Can I vent? They don't say complain. Can I vent? So you ventilate the stress, Yeah. And the other people around you also get stressed. It's contagious. Those who are in the scope of the ventilation. Ridiculous. This procrastination is really, ultimately, on a very practical level, this procrastination is a great enemy to calmness, to shanti, that relative shanti that one gets. This is what it is. On a very practical level. Then finally, I would say that a very sure resolution, remedy against stress is to make sure that your karma, your actions, which are dedicated to Bhagavan anyway, are aligned with what is correct, with what is appropriate, and what is it that you have to do, with dharma. Samanya dharma, what is correct? Because usually stress comes from when I do something which I don't think is correct. When you cut corners, when you say, oh, this is okay, I was owed this anyway. I gave myself a bonus, no big deal. I was owed it. Yeah, but that's not what it really is, The story is much more complicated. So whenever one cuts the corners, whenever one kind of flubs the situation, try to manipulate it to my own needs, whenever dharma is compromised, there is great fear, stress. Because the human being naturally is aligned with dharma. Nobody wants to be adharmic. Even Duryodhana expressed helplessness. Janami dharmam, he says, I know what is correct. I just don't feel like doing it. Yesterday we saw one play, and in this play, all these baddies were at war. And this Indra, the one who was playing Indra, was approached and said, I think you need to fight. And this little boy said, I don't feel like it. No, this is not an option to, I don't feel like following dharma today. So today is Sunday, I don't have to follow dharma. No such thing. And neither you can say, I am already saved, so I don't have to follow dharma. Dangerous. There is no exception to dharma. Dharma actually, if you follow, there is no conflict. When you do what is right, there is no conflict. There is no stress. There is no fear. Even if the consequences are unpleasant, because sometimes people, those who are dharmic are not very popular with others who are not. But there is no conflict. You know in your heart you've done the correct thing. You're not overwhelmed, you're not upset, you're not stressed out. Then you go with the flow even in your own area, in your space, in your time. Deshatah, kalatah, what is appropriate you do. It may not be right or wrong, but it is what is correct for that particular place and time. You just be easy going. Again there is no stress. Then finally, whatever it is Bhagavan has given you to do in your lot, in your role, and a person performs many roles. Son, daughter, mother, father, later on, then employer, employee, so many roles. Just do what you are supposed to do. Oh, but I can't do what I am supposed to do is too much. If it's too much, then certain things need to be dropped. Perhaps you are doing things that are not necessary. This is something to take stock of. And this way, this is the life of a Vaidika really. There is no time for stress. Because by the time you decide to get stressed, you fall asleep because it's time to sleep. Then you get up and in the morning again there is Nitya Karma, Naimittika Karma. There is all these things that are needing to be done, and you align yourself with Bhagavan, put Bhagavan as the proxy doer. And you do what is right, what is correct, what is appropriate, what is your job, and you let the consequences be. You don't stress out worrying about the consequences because Bhagavan is going to give the consequences. And you do everything in a timely fashion. This is what the whole thing is. This is how to be free of stress. This is how to keep stress at bay. Thank you. Om Tat Sat. You can ask questions. If there are any questions, I will respond to that. Long talk, huh? You were very patient. Everybody was very patiently listening. Including you, yeah? All of you. Where's the little one? She went to play? Oh, there, okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sometimes there's very fine lining between following what is righteousness, in the sense that I think it's easier, at least for me, it will be de-stressed if I don't have to discipline so much.
If you don't have to?
Discipline the kids.
Discipline the kids, yeah. Yeah, that would be easier, yes.
Easier.
Yeah.
So if I want to follow what is right, what needs to be done,
Yeah.
and at the same time, need to de-stress myself over facing all that conflicts.
Yes.
How do I find a balance on
everyday
life?
That is something. That is what I said. Does not come with a book of instructions. Yeah. You have to figure it out, and you have to not be afraid to make mistakes. See how cute they are. You cannot possibly make a mistake. Yeah. You can't, possibly make a mistake. They'll turn out wonderfully, no problem. Because you have to experiment. And you can't always do as you like. So you have to learn to like what you have to do. That is part of life. So you have to discipline, but outwardly. Inwardly, there is still love. It's just a boundary.
At this point.
It's okay. We'll leave that be for you. Give it to Bhagavan. Just pray and say, make them understand. Yeah. And then when you are sitting quietly and having some time with them, you say, sometimes I have to act mad. As a mother, I have to act really mad. And then they will say, is that really an act? Because they know better sometimes. They'll say, is that really an act? And then now you're in another quandary. Because if you say yes, next time you're mad, they're not going to take you seriously. And if you say no, then that means that you are, admitting to really being mad. Otherwise life is not fun. If everything goes as planned, every morning, you have the right temperature of milk and right kind of cereal and right way of going to office and not a single person cutting you in front and the signals becoming green. As soon as you approach, every signal becomes green. Every highway is not congested. There is no rush hour, no push hour, and you go there, and as soon as you go there, the employer says you have got a promotion every single day. And then magically, magically the inbox and the outbox, the inbox is not there and all gone. Now everything is cleared out by 2 o'clock. Then you can play some games and update the status on your Facebook page. And send some tweets, happy tweets to people. And then somehow you while away the time, you come home, again there is no traffic. Magically hot dinner appears on the table. And then you get a good night's sleep also. Your favorite program is on the TV. That would be nice, but it would be so boring if it happened every day. Life is not worth living because it's so predictable.
You like to try it.
Hmm?
You like to try it.
Say that again?
I said you like to try it.
Yeah. I'm sure everybody would like to try it. But there's no fun in it. It's so boring. It's these kinds of little drama we need, We are our own reality show. This is the reality show. You don't have to watch TV to find out how those people are living under stress. All the shows are all about, you put a bunch of people under stress and then you turn on the tube and watch them. Just watch your own life. It's enough. Say, this is how I behave. Oh, yesterday I was really angry. I shouldn't do this. Watch and learn from your own life. This is what it is. Last time, last year when I went to India, they were, I was teaching, and then there was a group of people. They said that this is some show they were talking about, where everybody is taken to some house, and then they are locked up in this house. Big Brother? I don't know, whatever it is. I forgot, I don't know the name. Huh? No, it is Indian show.
Yeah, reality show.
Now India also these reality shows have started. Yeah. In India we had live entertainment wherever we went. Just look out of the window, there is live entertainment. But things are changing there also. Everybody is stuck to the the television. And so here, I forgot, I don't know the name of the show. But it sounded, horrendous. It sounded just completely contrived. And they just get some random bunch of people. And apparently you apply to be part of this random bunch. And if you are selected, this is some group of people, they are thrown into a house and locked up. And then, and they are under camera all the time. And then the point is to see how they get along, and most of the time they don't get along. This is what is the definition of family. You don't need this. Family also is a bunch of random jivas who never knew each other. They never, everybody wonders, are these really my parents or am I adopted? Everybody wonders. And it's not just that the children wonder. The parents also wonder, is this really come through us? Is this really our child? How come it's behaving not like us at all? So this is what it is. Every family is a bunch of random people learning to get by, learning to get along under extraneous and stressful circumstances. This is what it is. So be your own reality show and learn together. And you need some help in this. You have to take some help from the family members. And this is how you manage the stress. All you have to do is tell your teenage children, let me know when I'm stressed out. They will tell. Even pre-teenage, yeah. They will say, Dad, Mom, you're stressed out. Don't talk now. We'll discuss this later. Yeah. You tell them to tell you when they are stressed. You have a familial pact. And that's how to, manage that. Yes.
I think some amount of stress is necessary to function. And that's why I'm saying is because if you do not have fear, then you could become reckless.
I don't understand the connect. Fear, stress, reckless. Please say more. There is something more you're trying to say. Yeah, tell me more. What do you mean?
If you are not stressed yourself, then you are going to not stress on others. Others are going to get stressed. If you are a very calm person, let us say. Okay. That means you are so calm that others worry why you are so calm.
That's a very good point. I'm going to talk about this. I'm so glad that you brought it up, Yeah. Even though everyone laughed, they were all wanting to ask this, but you were courageous enough to ask. So for that I give you a big applause. Yes. No, really, everybody was wanting to secretly ask this. So it is like the question, who should bell the cat? Correct? The cat is causing havoc and eating all the mice, and the mice decide on the meeting and have the bright idea one bell should be put around the neck of the cat so that it doesn't eat us. Oh yay, we have seconded the motion, we have tabled the motion, yes, but then who is going to do it, correct? So who is the first person to de-stress and have an Om Shanti, demeanor in front of the society? And that itself is going to cause agitation. And actually there is a certain amount of truth to it, at least on the surface. Why? Because the society functions in a very dysfunctional way. Your stress feeds off onto others, other stress feeds off onto you, and you get to the place where you start thinking that without this I cannot function. But thankfully it's just a feeling. It's not really true. It's not really true. It's like something, one is addicted to something. And one thinks that is what is helping me do this. But it's not. It's just a placebo. Afterwards you find out that the pill that you were taking, this energy pill, was just a placebo. So is this feeling that everybody should be stressed together, then only the project will initiate, then only the creativity will flower, then only everybody will learn, then only everybody can work together and get something accomplished. No, not necessary. Although there is a certain truth to it, because that is all that we know is that alone. That is what it is. So if you decide after this talk that from now on I'm going to be calm, I'm going to do things on time, quietly, without becoming a drama queen, a drama king, and I'm going to just do it no drama, nothing. I'm going to do things in a timely fashion. I'm going to dedicate everything to Bhagavan. I'm not going to take on the stress. And very soon you have a holy glow of non-stress. You're smiling all the time, you're happy. And then somebody says, what about this? Oh, ho jayega, Bhagavan is in charge. If you talk like this, of course it's going to cause a lot of agitation. But then, that agitation is temporary. And that agitation is going to take on a few kinds of very funny scenarios. First, they are going to poke every button that you never thought even you owned to make sure if it's real or not. if you're just faking it. If you're faking it to make it, it's a different thing. But if you're just faking a calm demeanor, everything is okay. They are going to make sure, they're going to see if this is a surface level or if you have really undergone some kind of an inner spiritual revolution. So it's a temporary state of affairs. And you can give back their agitation to them and say, I don't any longer need this in my life. After a while they will say, how are you doing it? What is the secret of your success? And that's when you can start writing books on this. Yeah. You can start writing books and become famous without stress. Yeah. This is what to do. So the agitation may be there because each time you change the dynamics, whether it's within the family or between the co-workers or in the society, there is a certain sense of disbelief, denial, fear, agitation. Because if one person decides to change, then that means he was my friend, he is my friend, he is just like me. So if he changes, then I also have to change. But the truth is I don't want to change. I'm panicked, I'm addicted to my behavior and I'm afraid to take the step. So what is easy to pull you down to my level rather than me undergo the same transformation that you are wanting to undergo? This is the societal thinking. I know this very well because this is what happens to people who go on the spiritual path. Yeah, so I'm intimately familiar with this. Yeah. 10,000 reasons people will give why not to go on this path, including all this, guilt trips and fears and pains and sorrows. That is just what the society does. And we have to be compassionate without letting that compassion be misplaced. Compassion doesn't mean doing what people expect you to do. Compassion means allowing them to express their pain and sorrow. That is what it means. Without needing to take it on. It's a functional compassion. Allowing them to be who they are. Explaining them gently. You're not causing hurt by choosing to be calm, correct? It is within dharma, it is within our shastra to be calm. That shanti, the every mantra ends with shanti, shanti, shanti. I'm not disturbed by everything that goes around me. This is Adi Bhautika Shanti, Adi Daivika Shanti. I'm not disturbed by my surroundings. Adi Bhautika Shanti. Bhautika means by my surroundings. Adi Daivika Shanti. I'm not disturbed by the so-called acts of God, earthquakes and tsunamis. And finally, I'm not disturbed by any waves of anxiety within. Adhyatmika Shanti. These are the three Shantis everyone strives for. And if one person is able to get it, you have to make a beginning somewhere. And because other people are going to be agitated, that's not a good reason. Agitation is temporary. After a while, everybody will calm down. Then they will say, how are you doing this? Please teach us. You become respected in the society. Yeah. You become a Shrestha. Back to Bhagavad Gita. What does Bhagavad Gita say about the Shrestha? Yadyad acharati Shrestha. Just like the exalted leader within the society acts. Tattadeva itaro janaha. Other people also follow. Sayat pramanam kurute. Any sankalpa this person decides to make. Lokahatar anuvartate. The people follow. Like the fish on the line, everyone is hooked to Shanti. So it's a very good reason to say, I'm going to make a beginning. I'm not going to wait for others around me. I'm going to be the leader. I'm not going to be led. It's a good thing. Next. Yeah.
So, when asked what's the difference between stress, tension and panic, there's this joke that's usually said, when the wife is pregnant, it's stress. When the girlfriend is pregnant, it's tension. When the wife and the girlfriend are pregnant, it's panic. But my question to you is, how important is it for us to be surrounded by positive people?
It is important. But you cannot depend on it. Somebody said you have to be the change that you seek to see. I think Mahatma Gandhi said that. Be the change that you want to see. So you be positive, then you stop needing positive people. In the beginning of the quest, it is important. But like so many things, like the weather, you cannot control that. You cannot say, I want all the time for it to be 73 degrees in Atlanta. It's an impossibility. Or anywhere. Except in the house where you can set the thermostat. That's a different thing. But you cannot say, I want it just like this. It's an impossibility. So you may say, I want to be surrounded by positive people. Then what will happen? Chances are you may get your wish. More than often, chances are that you will get the opposite of what you want, correct? So you have to be prepared for that. So instead of saying, I have to have this, you be the change, you seek to be the change that you want to see. And if you are having a positive demeanor, then it won't matter what other people think, what other people say, and how other people behave. And if you are positive, it will rub off on others. Any other questions? Yes?
You mentioned about creating a space. I just want to talk a little bit about that. And secondly, when things are not happening or things are outside your realm of control, or like children or anything else, you tend to react as opposed to respond.
That's what is the inner space. The space between reaction and response. That is the inner space. Inner space is created by what is in Sanskrit called pratipaksha bhava. Seeing the background and the helplessness of the other person. That is the compassion. Nobody wants to be mean. Nobody wants to act out. Nobody wants to be, upset at you, angry at you. They are just helpless enough to not be able to do otherwise. You cannot do otherwise. And if you are able to see that, you have already created space, because you have removed yourself as the recipient of hurt and as a hurt individual, as a bhokta. You have removed that role and you are just an observer. So before you would react randomly, how dare you do this? But now you respond because you have taken into account the background of the person. Doesn't mean you condone the behavior. You can say, I know where you are coming from. I can appreciate the fact that you are angry, but I do not appreciate the fact that your anger is directed at me. You give them back the anger, very calmly. That is what is called creating inner space. The space between, and that is what I meant, the space between yourself as an actor and yourself as an observer. That is the space. And that space has naturally to be occupied by the awareness of Bhagavan, because that background is nothing but Bhagavan. It's the psychological background often that stymies us, other people's psychological background, of which we may not be aware. We may not know that, their parents beat them when they were small or they were abandoned. All this we don't need to know the gory details of their childhood. But that there is a background which is invariable, and that this unconsciousness in the form of anger, fear, hatred, hurt that is being directed against me is coming from that place. That much I have to be aware of. And that background is Bhagavan. That is what it is. So when you are aware of that, that doesn't mean you condone the behavior, but you appreciate where they are coming from and you are compassionate as a result of that. So your response is going to be different. It's a two-step response rather than a random, knee-jerk reaction. And that is what is meant by inner space. You have to practice it. You have to practice it in families, in satsang. You have to commit to practicing it. Yeah.
Stress also can be a positive also, right? It may not be necessarily always considered to be a negative thing, and the 5 guidelines you provide is very helpful, but it can also have positive outcomes on not just that particular situation, but also on yourself also, right?
How?
From the situation you can introspect and say, how can I avoid it? And differently.
Yeah. In that sense, yes. Because everything is positive that way. Disappointment is positive because you learn from it. Difficulties are positive because you grow from them. So in that sense, when you encounter stress, you know how to manage it better. If not, sometimes it cannot be avoided. You learn to manage it. You go back to the basics. You learn to manage it. You learn to transcend it. You learn to live with it. And if others around you are stressed out, you learn to not be stressed out. Because it's not helpful. If you are the voice of calm, when other people are stressed out, then that is a positive thing. And you learn how to do that. Yeah. But that doesn't mean, because stress may have some positive outcomes, because you learn how to manage it, that doesn't mean you have to plan to have it. Yeah. Yeah, you shouldn't plan to have it. Yeah. It's not necessary. Yes.
What's the role of raga, dveshas and stress?
Raga, dveshas cause stress. Yes. Because Arjuna had a dvesha, he didn't want to fight his own people. And he had a raga for Haridwar or some vicinity there. Raga for going away, dvesha for staying in the battle. Yeah. That's what I meant when I said that you can't do always as you like. So you have to learn to like what you have to do.
Can we say that he was confused about Swadharma?
He was not confused. He knew Swadharma. He knew he had to fight. He didn't want to do his Swadharma. This is what the Dharma Sankata. He didn't want to do his, he was not confused. He didn't want to do his Swadharma because the recipients of that, his soldiering, his war, were people that he was in love with. He was emotionally had a connection with, a relationship with. And he didn't want to be the cause of killing them. That's what it was.
So escapism then?
Yes. Escapism means he didn't want it to do it. And when you don't want to do it, you want to run away. What else will you do? Going gets tough, the tough want to leave the situation. Fight or flight, that kind of a thing. Yeah.
I mean, along the same context, I mean, is it possible that, I mean, to me I'm having a little bit of difficulty understanding that this roping of Draupadi and all these things, this kingdom was taken away and that 12 years of 1 month. So that would have built a lot of anger and revenge.
It did.
And
that's what I'm saying. It did.
So then how did emotions take over at that juncture? Something that has been built up for not 1 week, 2 weeks.
That's what.
12 years. So can you say time is a healer for that?
No. He was not healed at all. He was frustrated. He was frustrated, and under the spell of stress, he stopped thinking clearly. He stopped thinking what the outcome of the action. He stopped thinking about Draupadi. He stopped thinking about all the arsenal that he had piled up. He stopped thinking on the repercussions on the younger generation. His desertion would set a bad example. He stopped thinking of all the people oppressed by these Duryodhana's regime, reign of terror. He stopped thinking, couldn't think. All he could think is, I don't want to do this, I want to run away. Because these are people connected to me and this war involves killing them and I don't want to do that. That's what it was. This is what is called Dharma Sankata. A difficult situation with regard to Dharma. Sankata doesn't mean confusion. A difficulty with regard to what is it that you have to do frequently makes you want to escape, want to go into a mode of avoidance and denial. This is a psychological background. This is a normal human response. But it's not an option. Yeah. It's not always the best option. That's why Bhagavan says, Swadharme nidhanam shreya. It's better to die doing what you are supposed to do, even if you do it imperfectly, rather than try to stray into unknown pastures where you may, where you don't even know what to do.
One more follow-up question. With regard to the Vishwarupa, I was just wondering why did Lord Krishna show such a gory form?
He didn't show a gory form, it was how it is. This is Bhagavan. Bhagavan is beyond good and evil, beyond dharma, adharma. And from the point of the rescuer and the savior of those who are good, paripranaya sadhunam, Vinashaya cha dushkritam, the miscreants are being taken to task. Not that he is doing it. Their own karma is leading them to gory ends. And Arjuna was in a privileged position to be able to see the action and consequence, their own actions and their own consequence. The Bhagavan is just a, postman. That is just bringing karma to them. That's all. Lord Krishna was just the mail carrier. That's all it was. So their own karma, they had it coming, and he was in a vantage position to be able to see that. And it frightened him. Because he separated himself from the whole. He didn't include himself. It's not that Bhagavan is Gauri. Yes.
How to control anger?
You cannot control, you can manage. Anger is not a bad thing. It is there. It is given, it's part of the psychological background. It is universal. It is there. Same thing that I said with stress, You tell your children, whenever I am angry, tell me. Tell me, let's not discuss it right now. Let's discuss it later. Right now, some time out is needed. That's a very good way. You can grow in the families if you make a pact like this. And when you're angry, take a few deep breaths, stop acting, count backward from 10 to 1, so many things they will say. All of them work, and all of them do not work in certain dire situations.
So we see them making mistakes and not making correct choices.
Who?
Children.
Hopefully you will say something, right? You won't just see them, right? You will say something, right?
Yeah, and I cannot control that. I cannot see them making wrong choices.
No, you have to discipline them. That is your job. You have to say you cannot, as long as you don't, if you are under 18 and if you are living under my roof, this is not going to happen. You have to put a line. You can't just see them making wrong choices. You have to say this is how we live as a family. There are rules, there are disciplines. These activities are allowed at certain times. These activities are never allowed. It's like when you fly in the plane, they tell you. Certain electronics you can have at the gate. Certain electronics you can only have after certain 1,000 feet. Certain electronics you can have upon landing. Certain electronics you can never have, like the cell phone, correct, in that transmitting mode. So like this you make rules. Certain things are okay once in a while, certain things are never okay. Certain things are okay when I say so. But, make the rules and just stick to it. That's what you have to do. And that's what all parents have to do. It's not fun, but it is something we do. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaः, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Satgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityo Ma Amritangamaya, Om Purnamadaः Purnamidam Vishyati.